If you put Julie Andrews, Doris Day, Carol Burnett, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg in a blender, you'd pour out my mom. It seemed to me that the sweet melodies of Muzak accompanied my mother wherever she went. She was the classic mid-century beauty with grace and poise and more than a few big hair days. What style! Even her handwriting, just impeccable. With her, everything in its place didn't just pertain to her hair and her home, but her whole way of being, just so. A tough act to follow. I watched her my whole life and never mastered that effortless elegance and composure my mother seemed to just be born with. When she spoke, people stopped talking and listened. When you met her, you just instinctively liked her. How'd she do it? The higher qualities in humanity, you know? You could just smell it on her, like kindness and modesty and prudence, intelligence, eloquence, generosity and positivity. And it was the real deal, totally genuine. And that voracious appetite for books. Sweet Lord, could that woman read. She didn't read trashy fiction. She read historical accounts of world events. To her, that was fun. She had such a curiosity, more like a hunger, to know what people went through, what the real story was, really to understand the human condition. She was a lifelong addict, and her friend Aura can attest to that.
While others of us were making our way through the most recent novel, Anne was devouring those tomes that capture the lives of historical figures. Her social consciousness then had her applying this historical perspective to possible solutions for today's maladies.
In October, Anne told me one of the best things that ever happened to her was being part of our discussion group, because she had a chance to discuss things that were not ordinarily discussed openly. One of her qualities was to question everything about politics, about history, our families. It was her job to get herself out of her bubble. But her latest concern was about people retreating into silos and people not getting information from multiple sources. This troubled her greatly. She said the only way we're going to get beyond the silos was for people to purposefully make that move beyond the silos. She urged us all to think out of the box, to put ourselves in other people's shoes.
She even headed up the nonfiction history book club here in Anthem. I mean, come on, Mom. You were retired and you couldn't let up a little? Here she is with the book club. Kept going all the way, right up to their last meeting, making sure that someone kept the torch burning in her place. She cared. She really cared. She didn't care about prestige or possessions. She cared about people, friends, family, genealogy, even people she didn't know. Her passion project was tracing the roots of our family back to the 16th century. She wanted to know, and for her children to know, the people who got us here to the present generation. She wanted us to understand the struggles of the long line of people we owed our lives to. She even spent her vacations tracking down names on tombstones and county records in obscure little towns all over the map. Then, when she got home, she set about making countless pedigree charts and scads of custom-printed books with family history and photos, dating back to the age of the daguerreotype, which she then handed down to us kids in a tidy, wrapped package for Christmas. She cared about family so much that she just couldn't wait to grow up and start her own, marrying at just 20 years old to the blind date of her dreams, Bob Heinz. My Aunt Kathy tells the story the best.
The summer before Anne started nursing school, one of her friends called to see if she wanted to go to a party with Bob. I think she thought it was Bob Jennings she was going with, but she came home with Bob Heinz. I know this because they woke me up throwing pebbles at my window to let me in because she had outstayed curfew and our parents locked the door if you missed curfew. Well, true love had hit with a thunderbolt. Imagine Ann Berninger sitting on a curb watching Bob tinker with his automobile. True love could not be anything else but.
I know you, I walked with you once upon a dream.
In November, they got engaged. The wedding was the following October. I always thought it was the prettiest wedding I ever saw, perhaps because I eloped and didn't have one. Anne's dress was a taffeta princess style. Mine was gold crystalette. The bridesmaids wore pale lemon. We carried baskets of bronze chrysanthemums with wreaths in our hair. The day before and the day of the wedding were in the midst of either a hurricane or a huge northeaster. I remember the basement flooded, a chain gang hauling buckets of water out of the basement the day before the wedding. On the big day, we all loaded up under umbrellas into Daddy's Chrysler. When we got to the church and Anne got out of the car, the sun came out and shone all through the ceremony. The minute she got back in the car, it started pouring again.
It wasn't even a year before baby makes 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, all tightly bundled up in a VW Bug. My sister Lisa remembers it the best.
One of the crazier family vacations was a trip that we took with my Uncle Jerry in a Volkswagen Beetle, pulling a camper all the way to Florida. And I think we drove all night from New York to Florida with my uncle in his VW Fastback and us in this little tiny VW Bug. And there were 6 of us. And we ended up camping at a campground that had like a sand dune. And I remember all of us climbing out of the car and sliding down the sand dune. And there are some family videos of that whole event to prove that we all fit in that little car. But that was kind of a crazy trip.
It wasn't all postcard perfect. It's not like my mother's life didn't see any bumps on the road, it did. But she dealt with it head on and made the decision to divorce at a time when that was pretty uncommon.
I feel that my understanding who I am and what I'm capable of really began when I became a single mom. I don't think I had any friends who were divorced. And I had 4 children, and I needed to support those kids. I felt like I could do whatever I had to do. You just get in motion and you do it.
It was 1973, and though she never finished college, that woman just got on with it and brought home the bacon all by herself. In Manhattan, no less. Through an employment agency, she got an interview as a personnel assistant at Elizabeth Arden, and within 6 months, she was promoted to personnel rep to the Red Door Salon division. And by 83, she was promoted yet again to manager of comp and benefits. And again, in 87, to director. She credited doing so well because she learned how to deal with human needs and getting to resolution from her experience in child rearing. Glad I could be of help, Mom. Maybe this is where she picked up her manner of speaking. She had a way of holding the room's attention. She knew how to listen and didn't run her mouth. She thought before she spoke. She had, pause. She'd say, well, I've given this a lot of thought. Here's what I can tell. What do you think? I think that's class. She could have been in politics. But she was more than diplomatic. I think it was also more than just having integrity. I think it came from a place of love. Though she loved really corny love ballads, Mom was not mushy. She just didn't throw the L word around. She believed that when you said it, you ought to mean it. And ILY should arise at only the most important moments, not flippantly at the end of a phone call. Love had weight with that woman, and it weighed greatly in part 2 of her life with her second husband, Richard.
Love is beautiful the second time around. It couldn't be more beautiful for me.
Yes, indeed, the second time around was a charm, and it lasted the rest of their lives. Here's how the love story started. Family friend Tom Kieran commuted to work with Mom daily and kept her company with lively train talk, until one day, Mom is love-struck when Tom introduces her to Dick PEREZ, his hot-stuff divorcee friend. Tom hands the torch to Dick as he makes his exit from the Metro North commuter line in retirement. Next thing you know, Mom's making goo-goo eyes across the counter at him at their first date in the Oyster Bar in Grand Central Station. Their second date took place in the bathtub. Yeah, you heard it right. Mom roped him into fixing the leaky caulking in the single bathroom on Cathwood Road in Yonkers that she shared with her 4 little monsters, Gary, Stephen, Lisa, and yours truly. Next thing you know, he's bringing donuts and helping me with my current events homework on a weekly basis. Seems to have worked like a charm, because shortly thereafter, we were watching them exchange the vows at the Scarsdale Latter-day Saints altar and making a god-awful racket at their lovely reception, rimming our glasses with dampened fingers just to make that obnoxiously loud, attention-getting noise. Kids. She said they were her greatest accomplishments. Well, it seems her work wasn't too shabby, because all those kids seem to grow up and do okay, and to go on and have careers and families of their own, aside from one small loophole in the definition of family when it came to me, her youngest, who made this subject an art project instead, but that's another story. Nonetheless, she was supportive of us all in all our differences, and some serious doting action was focused on those 6 grandchildren and 2 great-grandkids, making sure quality family time was spent, despite living in different zip codes. Mom was a real mastermind in coming up with fun things to do for family reunions and holiday gatherings. She was so creative that she put in the extra effort into devising fun stuff for everyone, including white elephant gifts for the big kids, plus scavenger hunts for Easter and Christmas for the little ones, just so as to extend the excitement a little longer. She did it for us too when we were little. And get this, she adopted the German tradition of her own parents, meaning there was no visible sign of Christmas until the kids woke up Christmas morning. Because it wasn't the parents who did it all, it was Santa. So she stayed up all night, putting up the tree and the stockings and setting out all the little gifts. Who does that? Stay up all night? That woman, that's who. Because she cared. She cared about creating happiness. She cared about others. Even in retirement, she worked hard to support a family her whole life. You'd think she'd finally take a load off in retirement. But no. What does she do? She takes on more. It's not that she didn't know how to relax. She did. She and Dick traveled the world in retirement to some pretty fantastic places like this. Amazing? Yes. But even more than that, she considered retirement an opportunity to do the kind of enrichment work that she couldn't do while working. First stop in retirement was getting the heck out of the rat race in New York and moving to the foot of the mountains in Salt Lake City, Utah, to get a little closer to family, friends, and a bit of Mother Nature. And instead of playing golf like any other self-respecting retiree, what does she do? Community service with knitting needles. She knit sweaters and caps and blankets for babies and children for the YWCA Battered Women's Shelter, and for at least a 12-year period, she put out 40 units a year, each absolutely unique. She talked about trying to imagine every little child who got one of them while she knit one and purl two'd. She donated her time in a lot of ways, some for our church, where she served as primary president, Sunday school coordinator, Relief Society president, and even taught courses in genealogy in her local church wards. Plus, she volunteered as a docent in the Utah State Historical Society Museum, sharing her love of history, giving tours to school kids, and tutoring other school children in reading and math in the Salt Lake City school system. Wait, she didn't do that for me. It didn't stop there. In 2006, Ann and Dick decide to cash in the cold weather of Utah and trade it in for a new home, complete with swimming pool in sunny Anthem, Arizona, to spend the rest of their days. And did she finally relax and focus on herself? Well, of course not. She doubles down and gets deeply involved in the community there, serving as board member of the Wednesday Club, a thriving social organization in her community. She even served for, 16 years, I think it was, as the webmaster for their website. My mother learned web design before I did, and I'm a designer. Embarrassing, a little embarrassing. And then don't forget, on top of all that, she's devouring historical books and heading discussion groups with her Anthem buddies while being active in the local Democratic Party and in efforts to urge others to get out the vote. Most people accomplish less in the course of their career, but this is how she thought about it in her own words. It's always been important to me to be able to serve the community where I lived. Volunteerism makes for a strong community. Those who give their time and go serve others are motivated to do so not by money or recognition, but for the good they can do. At least that's why I've devoted myself to the organizations in which I've served. Wow. My mom had an extremely sensible nature. You could see it in the little things, like her love of artificial plants, for instance. She was so practical and sensible, but had a thing for aesthetics. Why buy real plants and flowers? They were just troublesome to attend to, and they'd just die anyway. Much more sensible using a little artificial greenery from Hobby Lobby to get the job done. Mom was never one for self-pity. She didn't like excuses, even when I asked her to fudge a sick note for me to get me out of school because I wasn't prepared for a test. She said, "You can't have your mother write you a note when you haven't prepared for adulthood. You need to be responsible, Susie." She wouldn't even indulge herself when she had cancer the first time. So stalwart. She just kept going to work right through chemotherapy. Drama was not in that woman's Crayola box. She was so practical and sensible. She just treated cancer like it was a toothache. No big deal. Just get it taken care of and keep moving. She just preferred to be positive and productive and to get things done. And when this final bout with cancer came around, she just kept going, right up to the end, fulfilling her civic duties to encourage the vote and to make certain that her own ballot was cast. What a swan dive. Indeed, Anne is a tough act to follow. They just don't make them like that anymore. Well, why not? Why not bring a little of my mom's Julie Andrews optimism into this cynical time that we find ourselves in? What do you think? Is grace, modesty, kindness, curiosity, and hope old-fashioned, uninformed, corny? Or are those higher qualities a rare gift that only some people have? You remember how Anne liked to design treasure hunts to challenge you and keep you engaged while you looked for a little gift she hid for you, right? Well, I'd like to think that when you find yourself in a tough spot where it would be really easy to just roll your eyes and wash your hands of the situation, maybe hunt for a little clue and ask yourself, what would Anne do? Follow those clues and you'll find yourself with dear friends who write the kind of kind words you're about to hear. Little excerpts from cards sent to my mom for her birthday, read by members of Anne's family. Have a listen.
You've got a light that warms everyone around you, that glows with goodness and radiates the wisdom of a woman who is beautiful inside and out. You deserve a day that's as wonderful as you are. Love, Jan.
Your kindness makes a difference. Your thoughtfulness is genuine. Your laughter is contagious. Your courage is inspiring. And you are amazing. Stephen and Tamara Hannig.
We can't choose who we're related to, yet friends are the family we choose for ourselves. Thank you for being such a dear friend, with a wicked sense of humor.
Love, Connie.
Dearest Anne, I'm so sorry I cannot attend tonight to help celebrate the anniversary of the day one of the brightest smiles I have ever known entered our orbit. Please know I am sending every good wish your way and wishing you a very happy birthday. Over the years, I have known you, first through the Wednesday Club and then through this group of amazing women. I've been in awe of your intellect and your insights into whatever the discussion topic might be. You always manage to deepen my understanding. Please know how much I treasure your friendship. Hugs and birthday wishes, Ro.
Dearest Anne, as your birthday approaches, I want you to know how much your friendship means to me. You constantly impress me with your intellect, your unique perspective, and your boundless curiosity. It is not only how much you know, but how you interpret it that allows me to think about a situation differently. That's a gift that enriches my life. Happy birthday, my friend, and glad we can celebrate your special day together. Much love, Elaine.
Happy birthday, Anne. You truly are a very special and remarkable person. I so enjoy your insight and wisdom. I feel blessed calling you my friend.
Anne, I'm sure you would be amazed at the number of lives you've enriched during your 80-plus years you've traveled this earth. Perhaps someday we will all be allowed to know things of that nature. If, however, those statistics aren't part of God's program in the next life, I want you to know that I count myself among the individuals who were privileged to know you, to learn from you, laugh with you, love you, and call you friend. I want you to know what a blessing your friendship has been and will always be in my life. Sometimes our light goes out, but is blown again into instant flame by an encounter with another human being. Each of us owes the deepest thanks to those who have rekindled this inner light. Albert Schweitzer. Love, Margot Miller.
Okay, Mom, I know you were a Mormon and all, but I hope that you will allow us the opportunity to raise a glass to you. And say to you, Anne, congratulations on a life well lived. Watch the bubbles. Oh, it always goes up my nose. Cheers. Cut.
Must have done some